Okay, well, we're really thrilled to be here. Thanks, Gabe, for inviting us to chat. Gabe has worked with us a little bit, noodling about some of the civic tech stuff that we've been thinking about, but I'm just going to really give you a brief background about Jainswalk. How many people here know about our project? Okay, almost everyone. I'll fill you in. But it's going to be very brief, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty and the code. Jane Jacobs was a civic activist and urbanist. She lived in Toronto and New York. She did some great things. And we run a global project of globally led walking tours that get citizens to lead each other through their neighborhoods, to talk about issues that they care about, to bring forward stories from a personal vantage point, to connect with each other and then maybe make some changes in small ways. And right now it occurs as an annual festival that happens around the world. It kind of embodies this thing that Jane said, that cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and when they are created by everybody. And as of this year, in 2015, we were in 189 cities because the project is really lightweight. It takes no resources to kind of go outside, walk with your neighbor. But it does take some tech muscle to be able to deliver a platform that allows people to collaborate online, to share their stories, to map their routes. And so we've been working on a lot of different kinds of tools through our website to do those things. And our core proposition, the thing that we ask the public to do, we think is really simple. It's think about a place that you live, work, or play in. Think about the stories, the people, the places that are there. Go for a walk, deeply observe what's around you, look at it, consider it, reflect on it, think about what your opinions are, and then maybe document those things. But it's easier said than done. It can be a kind of intimidating thing to ask a person to tell their story. And what we are driving at, and what I would love you guys to keep in the back of your mind while we delve into the tech piece and while we talk about what is the ultimate thing that we're trying to achieve, is like letting people know that they have expertise in the places that they live in every day, that you have a knowledge of your city, that it differs from everybody else's, that adds context, that complements other people's, that adds complexity, and that complexity is really useful and valuable to a civic discussion. And so I wanted to preface with a couple low-tech ways we try and do this. We have these things called city secrets, which we give out at our workshops, and we ask people to think of, it says, I know of a blank place located at blank. You should blank because blank. And we get them to fill this in, and so we get a whole roster of things, and we say to somebody, stand up and tell us what you wrote, and they will say, Evergreen Brickworks is this great place that I go to, and depending on where we are in the city, they're talking about really hyper-local things, and they think that everybody else in the room knows the exact same thing they do. And they're always surprised when we say, okay, how many people knew about this place? Now, I picked Evergreen Brickworks here, but there are some like really amazing gems, and they're always surprised when most of the hands in the room go up and say, I didn't know about that place. So it's this process of telling people that what they think is ordinary is actually quite extraordinary. And Howard is a great asset to us as well. Hey, Howard. The other things we do is we run workshops, so we think about different kinds of themes in the city. What are some ways that we can find common ground and think about different emerging places and spaces and networks of people. And this was one that we ran on technology, where people were taking markers and pens and working things out that way. In some of our school and community-driven workshops, we have people draw mental maps of their neighborhoods. Where do you go? Where do you start your day? Where do you end your day? What are the things that stand out for you? And it's really incredible how big they make some things and small others. But we're here to talk to you about the tech, and our platform that we run is a pretty much custom designed thing, and that's mostly Josh's wheelhouse, so I'm going to pass things off to him. And right now what we're playing around with are these tools that you see at the top here, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud integration, as a way of exploring the place that you're in, as a way of taking notes or documenting what's around you, tossing those things on a map, and then reviewing where you went, what you saw, and potentially turning that into a narrative that you can offer as a public language. So I will pass it on, I think, to Josh.
Which one All right, so really in the past year and a half, we've seen a big shift in mobile apps where the default setting for pretty much everything, at least all three of these, is to geocode and geolocate, I should say. So if we have this service making a map somewhere, or this service, plots your walk somewhere else, and we're plotting a walk, we're really duplicating the same data over and over and over, and asking people to do a lot of work that they've already done. So rather than keep on reinventing the wheel, we are trying to integrate more closely with the rest of the web and just pull in their last knobs where we can. So we'll start with Instagram because it's the most used, I'd say. So, it's just like every other OAuth system. You click it, it takes you to Instagram, it says, hey, log in, and then you do. Then it gives you a little filter box there. It fades in, says, hard to see from here, it says, type in the tag used on the geocoded photo for your walk. So that's, you're in the Instagram app, you take a photo, and then you tag it, and then just type the tag in here. And then as soon as you do that, so this was a walk that we just went on a couple weeks ago. So you've taken your pictures, and then it yanks all the pictures off of Instagram, throws them up on your map, and then you can see they're all along the walk stops on the bottom. They're going to be in the same order that you took the pictures in, which is a very natural way to do a walk, of course. It's really something people are doing already to take a picture as they walk, and then if you want to share it, just share it on Jane's blog. So we have Twitter and SoundCloud also. So the big move with this is that, and this is really why it was called the web in the first place, is that it was never meant to be all these walled gardens of people building their own custom data sets everywhere. We have no intention of doing that. We want to integrate with the rest of the web, and we want the rest of the web to integrate with us as a service provider. So we want to enhance what we're doing with this technology, which in this case is walking.
And I would say that at this point, that we're not suggesting that people that don't already use these tools as a way of performing in a social media space, we're not saying that they should adopt it. This is really built, at least for our first pass, for people that are constantly already tweeting and taking photos on Instagram and feel very comfortable in those environments. So to kind of really focus the scope of this is to test this out and see how we can build forward and see what use we could make of the really, really relevant and wonderful things I see on Instagram and Twitter all the time that could be turned into a walking narrative. So in this case, I mean, if you're very, very comfortable using the Instagram app and you are already posting material like this, it can add that layer of documentation to the walk creation process.
So as is a challenge with most data modeling problems, the big one here is that we have to get a consistent data model, and they don't always play nicely together. In this case, Instagram, we kind of choose what we think works just best by our cut. So in this case, Instagram, you take a photo, you give it a title, and then usually you put a first comment to say it's yours. And so that translates to, in this case, there's the picture, there's the title, and then the description. This wasn't that description, but if you wrote a comment, then that becomes the description of the stop. You'll see it drops the little marker there too.
So one thing I was going to point out is this is really the difficult piece is asking people to think about what would make good places to stop on the tour. So usually a Jane's Walk has about 6 to 10 stops. As a general rule of thumb, it can have more or less. There was a walk in Manhattan that went from the top to the tip, and that was a 12-hour hop-on, hop-off walk. Yeah. So I think there are all shapes and sizes. But
we have people planning a walk from Toronto to New York City.
Yeah. I mean, people like to do all kinds of things, but in general, when we're asking for the first time, a manageable amount is about pick like 6 places, 16 places you can stop in. And it's always a real struggle. Which ones are the ones that I should stop at? Is this relevant to the narrative I'm trying to build? Is this one interesting to people? It seems so obvious and ordinary to me. I don't know that anybody would be interested in it. So part of this process is supporting that that generation of these are different places that you can actually stop and have a conversation with people in front of the thing that you are photographing, tweeting about.
So next we'll look at the SoundCloud integration. So this one, by far the least popular, but it's a different type of media. It's sounds, of course. So again, just regular old OAuth. You click it, you get your sign-in thing. Now I signed in. SoundCloud is a bit different because you're not going to really care about hashtags. You just put in playlist and then you can choose it there. So this is a very uncreatively named JW test playlist that we have here. So you choose that, but in practice this would be like, you know, you're walking along the Don River Trail and you say like, here's a babbling brook and listen to how nice it sounds. So.
Or sometimes you want to record audio because it's easier to record than write, so people have different kinds of documentation preferences.
So then we only had one here, but we chose for the data on this, we take the title of the track, and then the track has a description, so it's fairly long, quite a bit longer than you normally put for a map, but that's why you have the option to edit it once you've loaded the points. And there's a little play button on her face there, and you can press it and hear Jane Jacobs. Just like in a museum when you spend $20 on those things, so you can listen to the guy talk about the paintings. And then Twitter is probably our least developed so far, but it's definitely the most popular of all the ones here. So you click that, then you get your filter pop-up like the others. In this case, it's identical to twitter.com/search, so you can just search for, in this case, you like park stroll from my name, and find every tweet you made that had that hashtag in it.
So we still need to build a more considered interface piece, because right now it is, you type in hashtag park, and then from : Denise Pinto would be mine, and so it can be a little bit clunky for people that aren't used to writing in that way.
And then probably the biggest thing with Twitter that makes it more difficult than Instagram is very clear, like here's a set of photos, the photo has a title. Twitter just has tweets, so you can have a link in there and then link maybe to a shortened URL for an image and maybe a shortened URL to a line. You don't know, but then what's the expectation from just a UX perspective when you go through this flow? Do you think that your vine should show up on the map? And then if we start supporting some media, does that mean we're expected to support everything? And then the amount of complexity just compounds exponentially. Hopefully we can at least get images linked the same way we saw on Instagram. But for now, we just show the tweet and it drops it in there. So at least we're not losing any data. So there we are. We've loaded our map. In this case, we loaded that. You see the pin we selected there is the Jane Jacobs podcast that came from SoundCloud. And really what it does is you can build your walk with all three. So you overlay your sounds on your images, on your tweets. In this case, we have a SoundCloud pin on our tweets.
And where we're headed is, like, this is the public interface, so this is once you publish the walk, what the public would see, and they could look through the stops on the walk. Right now, all of this is up and live. Everything that we showed you here is a screenshot of what our backend looks like for organizers of all kinds of tech ability. But this is really the part that needs work, is that right now you can't share those photos or images on the public map. And so trying to think a little bit about that.
Yeah, so here's the next things that we have coming. Loading image data, so that's for Twitter and such. Better feedback, so know why something didn't happen. I mean, this is always a challenge in all interface design, but it's like, if no tweets were loaded, you need to say 0 tweets loaded. Really doing a very good job of that yet. A staging area to show all results. So I think a lot of times, especially with Twitter, you get so much garbage if you don't form your search correctly.
Even if you're filtering by your own username, I think I tag everything #loved, and I probably would use that as a filter.
Yeah, you can get some you don't want to put everything, especially because you get a lot of offensive tweets that you certainly don't want these people going your walk to see in the list, so we definitely want to give people an option to filter out.
And then there's a question about whether you went out on the initial walk. Sometimes people do rehearsal walks, or we do walks with them in a workshop setting, and then we would have the chance to say, everybody use this hashtag. But sometimes they might just want to dig into their social media and find something that they tweeted or a picture they took and load it in. At this point, it can't be done because you would likely load in everything, or if you didn't have a hashtag, you couldn't filter. So.
And then finally, but not the least, is GeoJSON. So we have KML exports right now, but I feel like every year Google just nerfs KML more and more. So I think we really need to make this transition. JSON is currently a major web service provider as well as consumer. So many of our partners and just people with personal WordPress blogs, etc. We give embed codes out. We JSON, and if we use GeoJSON as well instead of this custom map format that we have, you could just import directly to Mapbox and whatever mapping system you have, load it into ArcGIS or QGIS, and work on the map there.
So as much as we take from the existing system of web services, we want to give back. We want to be able to export things. We want partners in Office and in the public sector to be able to download stuff from Jane's Walk and see it and use it. Right now it's an open source project on GitHub, and people can contribute code to it. And we haven't had, we haven't really done a lot of that, but we want to. We want to play well with others. We want this data to be usable and filterable and findable and all sorts of good things. And then the last thing that I should really say is that all of this is in the service of the face-to-face interaction. It is in the service of getting people to be in front of their neighbors with each other. So the final product always is a walking tour where you have a community leader or a number of community leaders with the public or with the neighbors. So to just keep that in mind while we chat about it. These are our contacts at Denise Pinto, at Koudys, at Jane's Walk, or denise.pinto@janeswalk.org.
Awesome.
We're gonna pull up the GitHub, but I think at this point,
Totally.
what's the format usually? We just go into sort of a.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Very, it's, at first I thought that these were like mock-ups, and it's like, oh no, that's like live.
I just don't want to incur the wrath